Hello everybody and welcome or welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, hi, welcome, come on in. My name is Millie and I post at least 3 times a week on a Monday, Wednesday and a Friday. Always cruelty-free, drugstore affordable makeup reviews with the odd indie eyeshadow palette sprinkled in for good measure, and that is exactly what we are getting into today. I recently tested out the new Blend Bunny and Maypang eyeshadow collection, the Fauna and the Flora palettes. I will leave that video linked up above if you want to see both of those palettes used together, swatches side by side for both of the palettes. And one of the comments underneath that video, somebody had said something like, it was something along the lines of, I'm not sure on this palette because it looks very light and very dark and not very many mid-tones. And I completely get that because the layout of the palette is scattered. It is just, I'm certain that there is a reason behind the layout being this way, but because it isn't the traditional lightest to darkest gradient across the palette, I completely get that it's more difficult to see that gradient in the shades, and I obviously swatched it out in the layout that it is in the pan, so the swatches were also jumbled in that way. So I have gone ahead and swatched this palette out lightest to darkest, so we will get into the swatches. I will also be coming up with some sort of eyeshadow look today, but I did just want to mention that this palette is magnetic. So if you got this palette and you wanted it to be in that more traditional layout, you can take these pans out with a magnetic tool or just with tweezers or something. I'm sure, I've never done it and I'm not going to, because I quite like the layout the way that it is. I'm not going to change it, but if you wanted it to be that more traditional blended gradient in the palette, you can change it should you want to. So let's zoom on in. I will show you the swatches, I will talk you through all of the swatches, and we will come up with my second look with this palette. And if you are interested in this palette, there will be a load more content around it. I will be doing an eyeshadow palette bingo. I will be using this palette in a 3 looks with video. If there's any colours in particular that you would like to see a look created with, I'll be taking suggestions down below. I am happy to do whatever look you would like to see, but let's zoom on in, I'll show you the swatches and we can come up with a look together. Okay, so this is the full palette, all swatched out in gradient order rather than the order that it is in the palette. So we've gone from the lightest, most pastely tones to the mid-tones to the deepest, darkest shades right down at this end. So let me just quickly point out the shade names for all of these. The first shade here, which if I just zoom in a little bit, this one here is Calla. Then we have Nymph, Placoid, Mantis. Then we have got Caridia. Then we have Aurelia. Next up is Eridae, then Bio Choro. Next is Billis. This one is a beautiful like mustard. I really love this shade. Then we have got the next one, this pink one is Anomura. Then Lychnia. Next up is Gralar. I do believe I used this one in my first impression. Then we have got Roseate. Next up is Odo. No, sorry, this next one is Grulo. Then this one is Odo. Then we have got Ravine, Starling, Castoria, Procyon, and Vivoria. So that is the full palette swatched out in gradient order, and I do feel like you can see here, I feel like you can tell when it's swatched this way that it is in, I feel like it is, obviously it's like personal preference and it depends on your skin tone, but I do feel like it is pastel tones, mid-tones, deep tones. I feel like it is a good gradient between the 3, and like I say, that is obviously just it goes on like my skin tone. Obviously the pastel-y shades are that pop of a delicious inner corner shade for me, and then the mid-tones are something to blend out, and the deeper tones are perfect for something on the outer corner. So I do agree, like looking at the palette how it is like this, I do feel like it looks quite dark, but I feel like that's because the dark shades are sort of scattered around potentially. So I do feel like it is useful to see it swatched this way, in more of a traditional way, so that you can see the gradient shades next to each other rather than it being sort of scattered all around. So I'm going to put some eyeshadow primer on because I haven't done that step yet. I will just use the Beauty Bay one, and then I can come up with some sort of eyeshadow look. I don't know what I want to do today, but we'll figure something out. So that is the primer nicely blended out. Now I'm going to take a really big fluffy brush and I'm going to go into Billis, which is this brighter green. I think I want to go quite green today, so I've got a green, you can't see, I've got a green dress on, so I want to go quite green to like match that. So let's go into this brightest green Billis on a big fluffy brush, and I already have the rest of my base done. So I don't usually do my makeup this way, I usually do my eyes first so that I don't have to worry about being careful, but we can be careful, we can do difficult things. It's actually been about a week since I filmed that first impression, so I can't remember what shades I used in that video. I know I used a lot of the mattes from this palette and then the shimmers from the Flora. I can't remember. Genuinely. I know I should be able to remember like the looks that I do, and if I looked back at the picture I would probably be able to figure it out, but I can't remember. So if this look is very similar to my first impression, I do apologise, but just know that's not my plan. So I am happy with the amount of that Billis shade. I have also put that under my eyes a little bit. Now I'm just going to go in with a smaller brush. I think I want to start working on the darkest colour, so I think I'm going to go in with, how do I want to do this? I think I'm going to go in with Ravine, which was this one here. So although it's like, it's not the darkest, it is the darkest green tone. So this is the one in the bottom left hand corner, and I'm going to pack that on the outer corner of the lid, and also, again, under the eye. I do enjoy doing an eyeshadow look after I've done the rest of my face, so that I can just do everything all at once. But also, I'm scared of the fallout, because I'm not very careful. So I have just taken a little minute to blend out that Ravine shade through the crease, but keep it really nice and intensely dark right on the outer corner, also under the eye a little bit, again just to smoke that out, but that Billis shade is still really nice and bright. So now I'm thinking I want something nice and bright across the lid. I remember in my first impression I did more of the peachy tones a little bit further in, so I want to try and stay away from those if I can, just to give something a little bit different. And I know I used the blue on the inner corner in my first impression, so I'm going to go in with Nymph, which is the more mint tone, and I'm going to use more of a dense brush. This one is definitely stained pink, but it's fine. I haven't cleaned any of my brushes in a little while. So I'm just taking that Nymph shade and I'm going to pack that on the lid further in. I do find it more difficult, isn't the right word, but when I'm not using a shimmer, I find it harder to know what to make the focus of a look, if that makes sense. But I'm going to try and not use a shimmer today, because not everything has to be glittery, as much as that pains me to say. Okay, so that's just that mint shade all over the lid. I'm just going to go back in with the other brushes just to make sure that that mint is like blended into those other tones. And honestly, I think I'm done. I think I'm happy with how this is looking. Obviously, if there was a shimmer available, I would be packing that all over where that mint is, like over the top of it. But I think I'm happy with just those 3 tones. I feel like the blend here is really pretty. And honestly, there is something very beautiful about an all matte look. A palette like this is always going to get me excited about doing an all matte look. Like, there is something classy about an all matte look. And I'm not a classy lady, but I love how this one has turned out. So I'm going to go ahead and just add mascara. I don't feel like I need a wing. I feel like the depth from that outer corner is sufficient enough for me. But I will go ahead and add some mascara. And then we are done. Then we are done for my second look. So I'm just neatening up that mint shade across the lid, because of course I got mascara all over my eyelid. Of course I did, but that just goes to show you that you can take one of the lighter shades, one of the mid-tones and one of the deeper shades really, really quick, really, really easy. I would consider this like a neutral everyday look, but that's because I like a lot of like neon, very bright shades. I like a lot of colourful eyeshadow. This is a neutral eye look to me, but that is another look for you, another little bit of inspiration. And the swatches, all of the shades swatched out. And a very, very quick, very, very easy look, should you wish to recreate it. So I hope you found this useful. I hope you found all of these swatches useful. Just to see all of these colours laid out in a slightly different way, it may spark a little bit of inspiration in you. I know that it certainly has for me. Like, I really think that you could do, like, I look at this and I see a lot of different looks. You could do something very sort of grey. You could do something really pink. Obviously this is very green. You could do something more blue, like there's a real good selection of blues. I would love to hear whatever thoughts you have on this palette if you are in the UK. I will leave it linked down below, this palette. I will leave it linked to the Glisten Cosmetics website. I do have a code with them. You don't have to use it. It is an affiliated code, but you can use the code millidavison to get 20% off. So I will leave that linked. But like I say, it is affiliated. You don't have to use it if you don't want to. And that is like only if you're in the UK. If you are anywhere else in the world, you may be able to find it somewhere that's a little bit easier for you to get your hands on. But I would love to hear whatever thoughts you've got on this palette. I would love to hear if you've picked it up, if you've picked up the Flora or the Fauna or both, and what colours you are enjoying wearing together. I want to know all of the gossip. But like I say, there will be an eyeshadow palette bingo with this palette, and there will be a 3 looks with as well. So if you like this palette, if you like indie eyeshadow palettes, if you're here for a little bit of rambling and a little bit of fun eyeshadow, please subscribe down below. Like I say, I post at least 3 times a week, but at the minute it's just all of the time because there is so much new makeup coming out and I'm feeling very, very inspired by so much of it. But until next time, thank you ever so much for watching. Bye bye.